Alright, we've had that screen up for about 5 minutes, so that should have given enough people time to join. First off, is the audio okay? Video okay? Let me know in the chat to make sure everything's working out, because there was a desync. The audio and the video were not lining up earlier. And yes, this will be available for viewing later. It shows up on the group page as an archived stream. You'll be able to see this and the live chat as it happened. And then I also post it on YouTube after. So if you have to leave, if your question doesn't get answered, you can view it later. Okay, awesome. If it comes out of sync, the audio or the video, let me know. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So what I'm first gonna do is, some of you guys filled out the form on the Google Forms and asked questions ahead of time. So I had a chance to go through those and look at them and see which ones I could answer, because there are some that unfortunately I cannot answer, some that I'm not comfortable answering, because they're really something I might need to message you privately about, because I have follow-up questions or things like that. So first we're going to do that, and then after that in the live chat you can ask whatever you want, and I'll try to answer them as best if I can. So sorry if I cough a lot, don't know why, getting kind of phlegmy, it's very cold here. I'll try not to be annoying. Okay, let's go. I'm not going to announce the names that are with these questions for one reason or two. First one being that I might butcher them, and also it's more of the name thing was for me rather than just the stream. So just listen, I'll say the question exactly how it was written so that you can know if it was yours or not. So let's go through. Okay, let me pull it up. Actually, I should do it this way. Okay. Oh, and if you didn't get a chance to submit your question, the forum is always going to be available. It's just not open for submissions right now, so you can't ask a question right now, but the link still works. After the stream, I'll open it back up for questions, and you can ask more through the forum, and those questions will be saved. Any ones that I don't get to today will also be saved. I'm just removing ones that I do answer. So if you still have a question, you can submit them after the stream, and they'll be saved for the next time I stream. Or if you put your full name in there, I might be able to contact you through messages if that's okay. You can put that in your question, whether or not it's okay for me to do that. But you have to include your full name so I can find you. And I'll try to do that too, because I want to get everyone who has a question, have their question answered. Okay, first one is, for anxiety, what is the best THC CBD ratio, and what is the best product / strain, topical or vape or tongue drops? I'll start with first with the method, topical, vape, or tongue drops. For anxiety, if you have chronic anxiety, typically people who have it all the time, you know, it's not something where like you have an episode of anxiety where it just hits you really bad. You're gonna want to do like preventative measures. With anything that's chronic, usually you want to do preventative measures. So the tongue drops, you know, under your tongue sublingual use is really good for preventative. I know it's not mentioned in the question about capsules. You could do that. I generally don't recommend capsules, you know, like oral methods where you swallow it right away instead of holding it in your mouth. And that's just because the bioavailability of oral methods, and when I say oral, I'm not talking about sublingual. Sublingual and oral are actually two different things. Even though they go in your mouth, oral is when you swallow it. So oral methods are around 5% bioavailability. So if you're taking 10 milligrams of CBD, you're only getting about 5% of that into your actual body. Whereas sublingual, it's around the 25 to 30% range. So there's a big jump there. So I still think that sublingual is one of the best, you know, the ideal method for most people for preventative measures. So for anxiety, yes, I would say the tongue drops. Look for tongue drops, you know, as the question says, tongue drops, sublingual drops. What is the best THC CBD ratio? With anxiety, THC is actually not recommended at all. At least in like significant amounts. THC can cause an increase in heart rate. It can cause an increase in blood pressure, and in some people, that can cause you to have worse anxiety, and it can cause you to get this really, I don't know, you don't feel good if you have anxiety. Not in everyone, there are always outliers, but studies have shown that people with anxiety do not do with significant amounts of THC. So I would not recommend a 1-to-1. Generally, you could try it, but I would definitely not recommend something where the THC is higher than the CBD. Hemp is really, the hemp stuff where it's less than 0.3% THC is really good because it has little THC, but it still has some, so you still get the entourage effect. For the best product / strain, I'm kind of frustrated right now because I'm trying to find terpene profiles for all of the products that we recommend, because terpenes have been something I've been slowly focusing on because they're actually really important. So with anxiety, for terpenes, I'd say just because there are terpenes, you know, one terpene isn't just good for anxiety, but it's also good for other things. So if you have something where you have some other problems, I would look at a terpene chart and try to pick some that match all of your needs, and then try to find a product that's high in that. With the products we recommend, it's kind of hard because some of them aren't releasing them. I don't know if that's because some of them use what they consider proprietary strains and they don't want to give all of that information out. It's kind of silly to me if that's the case, because somebody could just take their product and buy it and then go test it and figure it out themselves. But I'm pretty sure that might have something to do with it. So yeah, I would say for this question, for anxiety, stay away from THC, have a significant amount of CBD. For ratios, I would say go no lower than maybe like a 1-to-9, 1 being the THC, 9 being the CBD. And strains, I don't focus on strains a ton because in the hemp world, they don't really exist. I don't want to say, nobody usually names their strains. I mean, Four Corners Cannabis is one of the outliers that I've seen where they actually let people know the name strain name. But most of the time websites don't list the strain. So if you want a hemp product, you're not going to be able to really determine it based on the strain. You could go to Phytodabs and find they list strain inspired products. Note that it will not have the cannabinoids or the THC of that strain, but it will have the terpenes. So maybe that's a good choice for you. You can look at the strain name, go to Leafly, type in that strain name, and it'll tell you what it's really good for. Alright. If you have follow-up questions, you can always message me if I didn't answer it fully. I'm just trying to get through these because I have about 40 of these. So, moving on. Alright. Hey everybody. Okay. Next question. Is it possible for a full spectrum CBD to be THC free, 0% THC? This is one thing I'm also torn on. If it's full spectrum, in my opinion, then it has to have THC, right? Full spectrum means it contains all the naturally occurring cannabinoids in that particular plant and terpenes. If it's got no THC, if it's been removed, it's not full spectrum. So I think a better way for companies to describe these products would be broad spectrum. So my answer is sort of. I've seen some companies, I think Populum is one of them, if I'm remembering correctly, that have a broad spectrum product where they've done extra processing to remove as much of the THC as they possibly can. But I'm hesitant to call these products 0% THC because when products are tested, there is a limit to how much they can detect. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's none in the product. It just might be below the limit or below the lower bounds of what their testing equipment can detect. So I find it, I'm trying to learn more about it, but I think that with some of these 0% THC claimed to be full spectrum, when I think they're broad spectrum products, are actually probably still not what you want if you're really worried, you know? So I would still stick with isolate if drug testing is absolutely something you have to worry about. But I would be curious if anybody wants to try these 0% THC full spectrum products and see if it really is. Like if they'll over a month, because probably right away you're not going to test positive. Most of these products, like after the first day, you're not going to test positive. We've had it happen over a week for heavy users or people taking even just a few drops a day. So it can build up over time. So I'd be curious to see. But yes, they do exist, but I'm hesitant to say they're 100% like accurate in terms of the 0% THC because of the way testing is done. Okay. Next question. Lazarus Naturals is brown and contains sediment. I know this means it isn't filtered as much as my clear CBD oil, but can I safely assume this also means it contains terpenes that are filtered out of my clear isolate? Well, typically when you have darker products, the actual, and especially when you see like the RSO products and the things that are very much more thicker, and yeah, they have sediments and stuff, that's actually like more plant material in them. It's not that they're not filtered as much necessarily. It just is a different process sometimes to how they use it. And the color can also be the carrier product, or carrier oil, sorry. So one of the products I have now, actually I'll show you, this is a good example. You think full spectrum, and you think golden color, you think darker color, but that's not always true actually. Typically it is. You should be skeptical if you have a clear product that tastes like nothing and it says it's full spectrum. Be skeptical, look at lab tests. But, let me find it. There are exceptions. Am I going to be able to find it now? Oh, here it is. Okay. This is actually considered full spectrum, but if I can open it. Anticlimactic, I'm sorry. It has one of those safety, like child, oh, there we go. Okay. I have grips with that too. Gripes. This is full spectrum. It is clear, guys. It's because of the way it's hemp seed. Okay, I'll clarify first. It's hemp seed oil with CBD, hemp extract infused in it. But it's a refined hemp seed oil. It's not the normal stuff it's like a kind of like an olivey color. I don't know. It's not like olive oil. It's close though. But if you look up hemp seed oil, you'll see what normally the color is. Because when you have a hemp extract, like a hemp CBD product, a lot of people don't realize that this is actually 90% oil. That sounds bad, but it's not, because it's still pretty strong. I mean, this is like, the thing is smudged. Yeah, 33 milligrams per milliliter, or per dropper. I don't know if a dropper, a dropper's a milliliter. So even though there's only like a small percentage of overall volume of the extract in the product, it gets diluted in color very easily. So a lot of the color is lended towards the carrier oil. So a lot of times it used to be that you didn't want a green oil, and you don't want like a pretty green oil because it means there's more chlorophyll in it, and typically most people don't want that. But you can have green olive oils and green hemp seed oils. So you have to be careful when determining based on color. The only thing I'll say is when you're careful about color is when it's clear, make sure it's not something like this where it's been refined and it's a distillate type of thing, because you might be getting duped. where it's actually isolate. But on the sediment portion, it kind of just depends. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not filtered as much, because isolate hasn't really been filtered in the sense. There's a different process to extract it, to make the isolate the crystalline powder, which they then take the powder and infuse. So it's not really comparable to say it's not filtered as much. Hope that answered. I'm sorry that was kind of confusing. Because the extract isn't solid like isolate is. You know, it's an extract. It's not, it's like a concentrated oil almost. Moving on. If you're asking questions in the comments, just save it for after I get through these. I'm trying to move through them relatively fast, and then you can ask them. I don't want it to get lost in the comments as they keep things keep going through. So if you have a follow-up question to something I see, I'll try to go through, but save it. Just hold on to it and I'll get to it. Okay, next question. What makes one brand of the oil work for you while the other brands don't? Is it the oil companies, the reason why our receptors gets affected by certain strains? Things like, okay, I understand. Why, the overall question is, why does one brand not work for another person? This is hard to answer because why does one medication not work for another person either? Everybody hates this answer, but we're all different. Some people just have more, they need more, you know, you just need a higher dose. And there is something to do with, you know, the overall types of terpenes found in that. So we're comparing full spectrum to full spectrum, not talking about isolate versus full spectrum or isolate, but different brands typically use different strains, even though they usually don't make that known. Names, you know, they don't list the names. So different strains have different amounts of certain cannabinoids and different terpenes. So if your problem is that you can't sleep very well versus somebody who has inflammation, you're going to want to find something that maybe has some more CBN, which is degraded THC, and CBN is very good for sleep. Hard to find in hemp products because it's degraded THC, and we're not allowed to have a lot of THC in hemp products, so hard to find. But there are some brands that have more in it. You can find that on tests usually. So somebody with sleep problems might want that type of cannabinoid to be more prevalent, whereas somebody who has, did I say inflammation? Yeah, inflammation will want maybe some more CBG, you know, with the CBD. It's just, you kind of got to compare, because I find that when you're trying to find a product for a specific condition, you want to look at more than just it's a CBD oil. Yes, CBD is going to be the most prevalent cannabinoid in there. It's meant to be. But you want the entourage effect, so you want more than just CBD usually. And so you want a little bit of the other stuff. And then that also goes to terpenes. There are terpenes that are better for certain conditions. Some of them are antibacterial, some of them are anti-inflammatory, some of them help with insomnia. Oh, there's a lot out there. So you want to be able to find something that has those terpenes and cannabinoids that match up a little bit better with your condition versus this other oil, because they might not have the same problem and their body might not need the same thing. So yeah, it does have to do with strains, because strains a strain, they're all different, you know, so they have different ratios of everything. I hope that kind of answers it. It's really hard to answer, you know, why doesn't this work for me? It's just your body's different and you might have a different condition, and, you know, you might need to look at the lab test. Look at lab tests is one of the biggest things I can tell people. You know, do research on what the terpenes that oil has do, and if they're good for you, you know, for your condition. You can kind of match things up and it'll set you up for a lot more success. Okay, next question. This says, I want to know if is a thing as pure oil with nothing added, and if so, is that best for cancer? For the thing with pure oil, I'm assuming this means pure as in pure CBD, which technically does not exist, as in 100% pure, but we have really, really, really close, which is like 99.99% plus percent pure. That exists. It's isolate, which is the 99.99 plus percent pure CBD. No THC that can be identified on labs. No other cannabinoids, no terpenes. It's all been removed, and just the CBD has been extracted. That exists. Usually that will be either in the raw crystalline stuff. I should have brought that. I have all the other stuff out, but I couldn't get it out. The raw crystalline stuff, like this. This is 99.9 something percent pure. That exists. Or you can find it in an oil. It's this literally just dissolved into a carrier oil. That is what I would consider pure oil. So yes, you can make it yourself, you can buy it. If you make it yourself, you literally just dissolve this in however much oil you want. And is it best for cancer? I hate questions about cancer, mainly because this is one of those things I really don't want to give bad info about. Everybody says that I've heard that you want THC for cancer. So all I'm going to say is do your research for that. And depending on the type of cancer, you also need to be careful because there are some cancers that don't want THC. And there are also cancers for breast cancer. You need to know if it's, I think, estrogen driven versus non. And that can influence the type of product you go for because it can actually have the opposite effect. So, yeah. I'm not going to go too much more into that. I'm trying not to give people specifics about medical problems that they have because I'm not a doctor and I'm not, I don't have your problem typically with these questions unless you have migraines, migraines are my problem or a heart problem. I don't want to give the wrong answer. Next question. I'd like to know more about terpenes and how much to add to sublingual CBD oil. Okay. If you already have a full spectrum sublingual CBD oil, do you really want to add terpenes? Maybe. Let's say you have a full spectrum oil and it has terpenes you already want, but just not enough of it, yeah, you can add to that. But do you know that adding more terpenes to a product that it might not have much of to begin with, you might change how it works. Maybe for the worst, but it's kind of a gamble. How much to add? It's kind of just up to you. Terpenes need to be diluted. They have to be usually. They're kind of like essential oils. You don't want to apply them neat, directly. They can be pretty abrasive if you're not careful. If you buy terpenes, usually they will have a dilution guide on the website. I know that True Terpenes has some. True Terpenes are not cannabis-derived terpenes, but they're still pure terpenes. They have dilution guides. Usually it's no more than a few drops. It's a very small amount. So people see terpenes and they think they're very expensive. You're usually using very little. So don't go all out. You can always add more, but you can't take away. So that's very important to be careful about. And if you have an isolate sublingual oil, it's not full spectrum, definitely consider adding terpenes if you need a little bit of a boost. I've found that typically just isolate doesn't work super well for me, with Myoderm being the exception. Don't know what the heck is in that stuff. I don't know if they don't have anything else in there, but that stuff is awesome. Typically, isolate generally does not work very well for me. Isolate with terpenes is like a whole nother ballgame. It actually works very well. And then full spectrum, of course, is ideal for me. So yeah, definitely consider adding terpenes. What is a good brand for sleep? For this, I say, you know, try to find the stuff with the higher amounts of CBN. It'll be still small. It'll be like maybe 2 to 3 milligrams per the entire bottle, typically. But studies I read show that CBN works in very small amounts. You do not need a lot of it at all. So I think it was either New Leaf or Lazarus last time that had mentionable amounts of CBN. The Hemp Direct tincture, they call it a tincture. It's not a tincture though. It's not alcohol based. It's an oil. Sorry for calling your company out. Their product on the labs I saw has a mentionable amount of CBN, unless they changed it. Strains and combinations change all the time. Let me think. The Johnny Apple CBD Calm is good for sleep, I find. The Myoderm PM works nicely for sleep if you have muscle pains. Let me think. And if you go to PhytoDabs and you find a strain that you know is good for sleep, you can try to find some of those slabs that might match up with that strain. That would be good for sleep. Okay. What type of oil can I use for depression, anxiety, and stress? Typically, I'd say all of these typically go hand in hand. So, like I answered for the anxiety, I would stay away from the THC stuff. So, find something with a lower amount of THC. Find something maybe with, let me look, hold on. I'm gonna clarify something, because I keep forgetting. 1 second. Why is this not working? Okay, I can't get it to work. Oh well. Anyways, yeah. I'm hesitant to keep giving exact answers for these ones, but like I said, look at lab tests. Look at the terpenes it has, look at the cannabinoids it has. Don't just focus on the CBD. Look at maybe how much CBG it has, if it has any CBC, if it has any CBN, if it has maybe some CBDA, the acid form, left in it. And try to do your research and compare and figure out which of those oils has the best fit for you. Okay. How is CBD oil treatment better than taking cannabis directly? Doesn't it have CBD that could be more useful and absorbed better? I'm assuming you're talking about the raw plant, like taking it before it's been processed. Literally the raw buds or flowers or leaves, whatever you would like to call it. With CBD oils, typically they've been decarboxylated. If I already said that correctly, they've been heated. They've gone through an extraction process. When the plant grows, it actually does not produce CBD or THC, not the active forms. It produces CBDA and THCA, the acid forms. They're the precursors to the CBD and THC. Only through heating, only through decarbing, does it convert from the THCA to THC and CBDA to CBD to CBD, CBDA to CBD, sorry. Words. The THCA is non-psychoactive. When it converts, it turns into the THC, which is psychoactive. There's just different advantages. Typically, most people want the active forms, the CBD and the THC, so a decarbed activated oil is what you would want. But eating, and people juice the leaves and the flowers, you know, raw before it's been heated to get the THCA and the CBDA and even some CBG, because THCA and CBDA actually come from another cannabinoid, CBGA. CBG? Is there a CBGA? Shoot. I know it's CBG. I just don't remember if it's the acid form or not. But anyways, those are all prevalent in the raw plant before it's been heated. There are advantages to those. THCA has been shown to be actually quite beneficial in certain conditions so that you can get the benefits of it without the high. It's just whether or not you want those cannabinoids, because if you have an activated product, you're not going to have much THC or CBDA unless they took some extra and just like infused it and combined them. So it's not really about absorption. It's just about which cannabinoids you want, whether or not you want the activated stuff or not. Okay. Will CBD oil show positive for a cannabis drug test? This question, yes. Okay. Yes and no. It can go either way. On typical drug tests, they're not testing for CBD. What they're testing for is THC, and in some cases I've been seeing CBN, so the degraded THC, the stuff it converts to over time. So if you are taking an isolate product, 0% THC, and I mean that as in the testing has been done, it doesn't show any THC, it's below the limits, typically you should not test positive because it doesn't have THC, and the test is testing for THC and usually not CBD. I've had some people tell me they've been tested for CBD, and they show me the test, and it turns out they're not being tested for CBD. I have not actually seen it been done. Maybe they'll start doing that. I don't know. That would be kind of dumb, because we all know that's dumb. But typically they're not testing for it. They're testing for the THC. So if your product doesn't have THC, you're lended to believe that you should not test positive. If you're using a full spectrum product, and I really mean full spectrum, I don't mean where I said in the question earlier they're saying full spectrum without THC. I mean actual full spectrum. Charlotte's Web, Bluebird Botanicals, the actual full spectrum oils that they have, those have THC. You can test positive. I'm not saying you will. I cannot guarantee it. I can't say you will test positive immediately. I can't say you'll test positive a week later. Everybody, it's different. But I cannot guarantee you won't test positive like I can with isolate generally. So there you go. It always generally has to do with the THC. And even in the test with CBN, you have to have THC to get to CBN, so it's kind of the same rule applies. Okay. I'll look at chat after I'm done with the questions, and then I'll do the questions from chat. Is nano amplified CBD as effective, if not more, than the normal CBD nano amplified? I've never heard nano amplified. Do you mean like the liposomal CBD? Like the water soluble stuff that's not actually water soluble because that doesn't exist? I'm gonna save this question because I actually didn't see this one before. Maybe I'll look it up. Because it might just be a different term than I'm familiar with. Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah, nano, water soluble. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Is it as effective, if not more, than CBD? So I'll just replace nano implied. So with water soluble CBD, which I hate saying because it doesn't exist, what they're doing is usually taking liposomes, which is kind of a way of taking the CBD molecule and covering it so that it mimics water solubility, because CBD is fat soluble normally. I mean, it is. It just excuse me. It's fat soluble. It's not water soluble. That's why we put it in oils and not waters. I've seen water bottle CBD products. I've seen, the water soluble they call them water soluble oil, which is kind of a word that shouldn't mesh. It's an oil, it's a water, they don't go together. So true water soluble CBD is not a thing. It doesn't exist. Liposomal CBD does exist. And I say that with a little hesitation because I've not seen any studies from these companies saying that exists. And they throw out like terms like, oh, it's 95% bioavailability, which is way higher than anything I've ever seen because normal sublingual oils are in the 30% range. Transdermal is considered one of the best bioavailabilities, and that's in like the 70 to 80% range. So they don't have anything to back up their claims. And typically it comes with a hefty price tag. So I wouldn't really say to seek it out necessarily. The only brand that I am interested in that I would say is worth looking into is Dutch Natural Healing. I think it's their Active Plus product has amazing reviews. It's supposed to be water soluble. I didn't see on their site, or I haven't asked them, but they don't have any explanation. But I know they're a reputable brand. So it's kind of this thing where it turns into one of these things where we know they have proprietary, like, methods that they can't, like, if I told you I'd have to kill you thing, especially with Myaderm, they won't let you know, like, what's making their stuff work so well in terms of being transdermal, that kind of thing. But the Dutch Natural Healing stuff is also supposed to be allowed to use in a nebulizer, which is really interesting. They even sell it as a kit in a nebulizer. So overall, I'd say no. Don't even bother looking for water soluble. Sorry, I don't mean to, like, say anybody who's doing that is, like, gimping themselves out. You're not, probably, if you find it work. I don't really care. Like, if you have a product and you find it works for you and it goes against everything I say, as long as it's safe for you, I don't really care. Keep using it. You know, I'm not telling you not to use it. Just typically it comes with a higher price tag, the water soluble stuff, and I haven't seen any studies to back it up in terms of their claims of bioavailability, or even if the product is water soluble. Usually when it's a water soluble product, they put less CBD in it. Prime My Body, MLM brand that we typically say, you know, there's better options out there. It's claimed to be water soluble, so it has liposomal technology. For $150, when I saw lab tests on it, it was 7 milligrams per milliliter. For $150 for a 50 milliliter bottle. That's insane. That's like 5-10 times the price of everything else out there. And I haven't seen the studies to back up their claims. So, that's my answer. Okay. Next question. Is it normal to wake up in the middle of the night with extreme dry mouth after vaping during the day? I usually vape only twice daily, but recently found that waking up with dry, parched mouth and lips, that doesn't quench well with water. Don't want to stop vaping as it is really helping with pain. I also do not take any other meds, just CBD oil, and do not wish to take big pharma drugs again. Okay. Yeah, it can be typical. It depends on a few things. What is the base of your vape product? Does it have PG? Is it VG only? I'm probably going to say if it's isolate, it's not going to be VG only. It can't be. It's going to have some PG. PG can cause dry mouth. Propylene glycol, that's what PG is. Vaping in general can cause dry mouth. It's just the nature of the way things are. And then if it's not CBD isolate and it has some terpenes and other cannabinoids, some of those have dry mouth as I don't want to say a side effect, but it can happen. Yeah, so I wouldn't be super worried. I'd say it's probably more the action of vaping and maybe the bases in it than the actual CBD stuff in it. Was that the only question of that? Yeah. If you're worried, and it does have PG, propylene glycol, I would switch to trying to find maybe a VG. I could have sworn VG does not cause dry mouth typically. I'll look that up again. Let's see. Okay, next question is, hi, I'm very curious about this product. Does it work best for acute or chronic pain, or excellent for both? I have bad knees and they get worse after hiking or snowshoeing. By product, I'm assuming you're just meaning CBD in general, because we don't sell products, you know, we're not a business. So, does it work best for acute or chronic pain and excellent for both? It is excellent for both, yay. If you have acute pain and you have bad knees, I would say look into the lotions, the creams, the salves, specifically the transdermal stuff. Put in a plug for Myaderm because I love that stuff. Not affiliated. Just saying. That stuff is amazing. I can't rave about it enough. I've given like a bottle to every single family member I have. That stuff would be awesome for acute pain. you apply it as needed to wherever it hurts, so your knees. If you have chronic pain in your knees, I would take the oil regularly. That's what I would do. Typically for acute, you want something that works right away. So if it's joint, muscle, whatever pain, using something that's either topical or transdermal can work. And then if it's chronic, using something long-term internally, either a capsule or the sublingual is ideal. Okay, next question. Can I give my dog or cat my CBD oil? It depends. Does your oil have a lot of THC in it? And does your oil have stuff that is safe for pets? And by that, I just mean additives. Does it have flavoring in it? Does it have any extra, like, is the carrier oil safe for them? Because there's no actual difference between the CBD we give ourselves and animals. It's the same thing. You don't have to buy an animal-specific product for CBD. Typically, animal products are flavored that pets will like. If it's for dogs, it'll be like bacon or fish flavored or something like that. Maybe it'll have some fish oil in there, which is good for them. But usually it'll also be a lower concentration. Maybe that's just to prevent risk of overdosing them. Because unlike humans, pets can overdose at least on THC. It can happen. So, yes, you can give it to your pet as long as it falls into those categories of, everything else in it is safe for them. Let's see. Okay, this question, I'm going to say it, but I'm not going to answer it directly, because it's very specific. It says, I had a liver transplant in 2008 and have had no problems at all. Can I mix Prograf 1 milligram 2 times a day with CBD oil? Don't know anything about that medication, but what I will say is that CBD blocks certain metabolizing how do I word this? Words. There are enzymes in the liver called the P450 group of enzymes. It's not just one specific one that certain medications use to metabolize, and CBD can block those enzymes from metabolizing your medications. So what you need to do is go and research whether or not your medication has some interaction with those enzymes, okay? And what this means, if it does, is that the medication you're taking will typically be in higher concentrations than it's intended for longer durations than is intended when you take it with CBD. This can be skipped partially by spacing out your dosing, and it can also be skipped initially by the method you take CBD, because everything eventually will go through your liver and get metabolized, processed, whatever you want to call it, but you can skip first pass. By that means it goes into your bloodstream immediately and skips the first pass. First pass meaning if you have an oral, like this is why this is partially why capsules and oral methods are so low bioavailability, is because you lose a lot of it when you swallow. It goes through your stomach, digestive tract, all that deal before it hits the bloodstream, and like before it hits the liver. It has to hit the liver and then it goes into the bloodstream. If you take sublingual, it goes immediately into your bloodstream. It doesn't go through the digestive tract. Maybe there's minuscule amounts from the remainder of oil that you swallow, but you skip the first pass of that. And it can lower some of the effects, but it will still have an impact. So I say make sure that your medication does not work with that group of enzymes, and space them out. Even if it doesn't work with the enzymes, I'd still space out maybe your medications. Every brand that I've spoken to tells me 1.5 to 2 hours between taking pharmaceuticals and CBD. Either before or after, it doesn't matter, but 1.5 to 2 hours. Lordy almighty, cannot say words. Okay, next question. I haven't quite been able to determine what the advantage or benefit is of terpenes. How do they make CBD better? So terpenes are, if you don't know what terpenes are, they're naturally occurring. They can be thought of as, people typically call them the scent molecules of cannabis, but they're not just found in cannabis. They're found in tons of different plants. They do have a link to the scent and the taste of that certain plant. You can kind of learn where limonene comes from because it has lemon in the title, but it comes from a lot of other citrus fruits too. So they're found in cannabis. Some that I can know off the top of my head is the limonene, linalool, myrcene. I'm probably butchering some of these titles. I've never heard people say terpenes out loud to me before. That's kind of weird when I think about it. But they have some impact on the flavoring. Like, for instance, I have the grape ape phytodab stuff, and the flavoring in that comes from the terpenes, and it tastes like grape. Strain name lives true for that one. But if you research individual terpenes, you'll find that they actually have really big benefits too, other than just flavor and scent. Some of them are really good for inflammation. Beta-caryophyllene, excellent for inflammation. That one is a really interesting terpene because it's also a cannabinoid. It also reacts with your CB1 and CB2 receptors. I think it's both. It might be just one. I'll have to double check. But it does interact with either of them, with one of them. But it's also considered a terpene. You might not know that essential oils have terpenes as their parts of their bases, if you want to call it that. So, really interesting. But it kind of lends to the fact where I was saying earlier, I don't find much with isolate, but add some terpenes in it, and there's a big improvement for me. And for a lot of people I've spoken to. And that's why you want to look at terpenes too when you're finding an oil that maybe works for your specific needs, because you can see the benefits of what that oil might have in addition to just the CBD in it and what CBD is typically good for. Okay. What's the difference between an oil and a tincture? Is one better? On paper, oils are supposed to be products that are oil-based. So you have your extract, like your hemp extract or your isolate, in a carrier oil. Tinctures on paper are supposed to be where you have the extract or the isolate in an, or whatever, it doesn't have to be, cannabis related, in an alcohol base. That's what they're supposed to be. That is not what brands call them. Case in point, I have 2 products over here that are on oil bases, and the brand calls them a tincture. On paper, typically, or not on paper, sorry, in the reality, real world, typically they're not going to be any different because everybody is using the terms interchangeably. Double check, look at the ingredients. Does it have alcohol? Does it have an ethanol base? That'll be your first indication if it's really a tincture or not. Yeah, so is one better than the other? If it's alcohol based, usually those are harder to use sublingually because it's gonna burn. I've heard some back and forth about whether or not it absorbs better or not, but typically people do not excuse me, I can't stop coughing. Typically people cannot use, is this still streaming? There we go. Sorry about that. For some reason, it's being really weird. Let's hope it kicks up again. Okay, anyways. So on paper, they're supposed to be different, alcohol versus oil-based. But in reality, the names are used interchangeably. I think oils are still better. They're easier to use. Most products will be oils. Okay. Okay. Is there any information that you know of regarding CBD oil affecting cortisol levels? I can't take anything that might work on my body like a steroid would/could past Addison's disease. This is another one that's very specific. My recommendation for this and my answer would be have you Googled for research studies, because that's going to be your biggest indication of whether or not it's going to affect those and work on your body like a steroid would. Yeah, just look at research studies, because I don't know off the top of my head for that one. You should, if there are none out there, then there are, nobody's gonna know. We only know for sure generally when we have studies, or sometimes thousands of years of anecdotal, experiences. Okay. Okay, next question. I took Pure 7 for 6 weeks, which is on the avoid list. Now have Bluebird samples / Bluebird 6 times. Do I have to start low again when switching brands? I recommend starting low again, because the brand that you're taking the next time, like this time instead of the one you were taking previously, you might actually need less of it than you needed from another brand. So I always recommend starting low again, just because you could be wasting money if you're taking too much more than you need to be. You don't typically have to, but I would recommend doing it just for the reasons I stated. Okay, next question. Does the Myoderm Transdermal Cream work for severe, I don't know if that's, I have no idea how to pronounce that, radiculopathy? Sorry, I don't know how to say that. How much would I need for a month's supply for a foot and lower calf to keep the pain under control? Okay, I'm just gonna say it's a foot and lower calf condition with pain. How much CBD is there in the cream, as I tried 100 milligram pills and it didn't work? Okay, I can answer half of this because I don't know what that other, that condition is. Yeah, sorry about that. But how much would I need for a month's supply? So if you have the regular Myoderm, just the normal bottle and the PM, that has 700 milligrams of CBD isolate in it. It's an isolate product in the entire bottle, and you have 100 pumps in the bottle, so it's 7 milligram per pump. If you have the Pro, it's 1,400 milligrams in the entire bottle and 14 milligrams per pumps with 100 pumps. So if you were to use like a pump a day, it would last you over a month. I mean, in 30 days in a month roughly, depending on the month, and it has 100 pumps, it's going to last you almost 3 months. But if you're using multiple pumps a day, then no. So it's really an individual thing. Whether or not it works for a specific condition, Myoderm is really good for inflammation, neck pain, muscle pain, back pain, joint pain, arthritis, just like those type of conditions. Some people with nerve pain. I have migraines, and mine, I'm starting to believe, are largely caused by my supraorbital nerve. There's nerves all in your head, and it's actually helping with the inflammation of the nerves in my around my skull and my neck. So it helps me for that. But yeah, I think I answered all the questions about month supply and how much CBD is in it. Okay. I'm new to CBD oil and learning all I can. The milligrams confuse me. There are 500 milligrams, 750 milligrams, and up. How do I know what to start with and how many drops to take? Do they go under the tongue or just swallow them? Okay, so kind of like 3 questions. The milligrams are, typically the amount of actual CBD in it. So the higher the milligram amount that it lists, the stronger or more potent the oil will be, or product. It doesn't have to be an oil. So what I consider strong products are going to be in the 1,000 milligram range and up. I have a 5,000 milligram bottle currently next to me. That's considered strong. Medium range, I'd say, is around 500 to the 1,000 range. And below 500 would be the lower dosing, lower potency type of, concentration. So it's just how much CBD is in the product. And whether or not it's, it can also have to do with bottle sizes. Like, this is a huge bottle, and this is the 5,000 milligrams. It's a 100 milliliter bottle. Whereas this is 2,500 milligrams, and it's a 30 milliliter bottle. But they also came out with a 5,000 milligram bottle that's in a 30 milliliter bottle this size. So it's just, this is more diluted typically, and it can just depend on if that's what you want. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a worse product, because they're around the same price last I checked for the two, so it just depends. How do I know what to start with and how many drops to take? It's different for everyone, so what I recommend is starting low dose and starting slow, and what I mean by that is around the 5 milligram to 10 milligram range per day. Use that for a couple of days, maybe a week, then increase it by 5 to 10 milligrams. Use it for a week, then increase that by 5 to 10 milligrams if you need to. I typically find if you start getting above the 50 to 70 milligram range and you're not having any impact at all and it's not working, try something else, because it's starting to become cost prohibitive at that range. There are some people who need that much, but typically no. So to find your range, start low and build up. Don't just start at one dose, you know, like a high dose, and expect it to work, because it might be lower than that. Do they go under the tongue or just swallow them? If they're the drops like these, you know, the dropper bottles, it is meant to go under your tongue. Put it under your tongue, hold it there for at least 90 seconds. That's what I say. I've seen 60 seconds. I think 90 seconds is better. I do mine as long as I can. I've held it for like up to 5 minutes before, because I forgot about it. And then swallow it. Do not swallow it right away, because then it becomes an oral method. It's not sublingual, and you lose a lot of bioavailability that way. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I posted this question on the feed, but no response. Maybe it's been answered before, but I didn't see a response that completely helps me. So can you take the CBD oil and mix it into a salve or lotion to rub into parts of the body that hurt? Is there something involved other than pour and mix, and does it work? Yeah, you can take the basic CBD oil, like, let me find one that doesn't have anything added in it. Hold on. Okay, yeah, you can take stuff like this. This is just, it says it's just MCT, fractioned coconut oil, and hemp extract. This is as basic as it gets, basically. You can take this, put it in a salve or lotion, and rub it in. That will be topical application. Do not do that and expect it to work an overall body effect. Do not expect it to work for a neurological condition necessarily. If you want it to have an overall body effect, when you apply it to your skin, you need transdermal, not topical. Just mixing this in with something makes it topical. Transdermal means it goes through the skin and gets into your bloodstream, hence the overall body effect. Topical does not go through the skin and get into your bloodstream. It just works locally. You do have CB1 receptors and I think CB2 receptors in your skin. That's why it can work locally. Literally like in your skin. It doesn't have to go into your bloodstream to work in that spot. So is there something involved other than pour and mix? You can buy products with it pre-made. I have one right here. This is the Four Corners Cannabis one. It's a salve. Kind of gross looking, sorry, but it's a salve. Easy. You can buy gel pens, you know, where it's like a little pen and you click it and it disperses a little bit. You can buy actual lotions. It's a lotion. Yeah, you can buy them pre-made. Does it work? Depends on your condition. Like I said, don't expect topical to work for like neurological things or even digestive problems. Maybe not even anxiety. But it can work for muscle problems and joints, nerve pain, you know, on the surface, some of the on the surface stuff, skin conditions. If you have something deep and you really want it to work, I say go for transdermal, and my recommendation for that would be Myoderm. And then Mary's Nutritional gel pens are supposedly transdermal, even though they don't say it. Take that with a grain of salt. I've noticed they actually do work quite well. Not as well as the Myoderm to me, but they do work. And the instructions say to apply it to a venous area, not on the place where it hurts, which is interesting to me. So I think they're meaning it to be transdermal to get into your bloodstream, and that's why they want you to apply it there. Let's see. Oh, one mention about mixing, you know, your stuff with a lotion that's not CBD to make it topical. Make sure the ingredients in it are okay, because like my Charlotte's Web mint chocolate has flavoring in it. I don't want to put that on my skin, so just check out the ingredients to make sure you won't have any reaction to any flavorings or anything like that. Or essential oils. Some of them have essential oils in them. Okay. Some of these questions are not necessarily like exact repeats. They're by different people, but they've already been answered. This one was, I would like to know more about terpenes and how they affect the body. I partially answered that one already. I'm going to save it though. I'm not going to delete that one. Here's the next question. Does oil help for Parkinson's disease? If you go on Project CBD into their conditions section of their website, they have like 100 different conditions listed and health problems, and you can click one of them and it'll go to a different page and show like a variety of research studies on that condition with CBD. I believe there is one for Parkinson's disease, so that would be my recommendation, is go to that website, Project CBD, and look at the conditions, find the one for Parkinson's, read the studies. Sorry, some of these got submitted multiple times. I have RSD/CRPS in right foot, broken foot, severe chronic nerve pain. Can I use arnica cream and add a drop or two of CBD oil? How much would I use strength-wise? I have Bluebird samples and Bluebird 6 times. I've heard of arnica cream, but I don't actually know what it is. If it's just like is it a medicated cream, as in like a prescription cream, or is it just a regular like lotion, like BioFreeze, like that kind of thing? Either way, and is it a transdermal cream? Because if it's transdermal, it might take the CBD with it. If it's just a regular cream, you can mix it in. If it's medicated, I would look at what medication it is. And make sure it doesn't work with the P450 group, because that's not something I've considered before, is mixing them together in a cream and taking it if it's a P450 enzyme, if it reacts with the P450 enzyme group. How much would you use strength-wise? I would just use, if it's transdermal, the bioavailability is quite high, so if it were to take it with it, you know, you'd use whatever amount you want to get into your body. But since it's well, there is no bioavailability technically with topical use, because it's not getting into your bloodstream, I would just kind of test it, you know. You need to learn how much CBD is in per drop. You say if you have the Bluebird samples and Bluebird 6 times, I cannot remember off the top of my head how much is in per drop. Go to our website, the CBD Oil Users Group. We have the calculator, and you can calculate how much is in per drop approximately. It won't be exact because it's impossible for it to be exact. And you can go from there to learn how much you can use. For lotions, typically, I find that transdermal excluded, it's usually in the 100 milligram for like a 2-ounce range up to, I've seen like 500 to 700. In a similar size, so it kind of varies. So to get that strength, if you're like making a pot of lotion, you know, that you want to continuously use with the CBD already mixed in, you might be using an entire bottle. You know, it might be more cost effective for you to just buy the lotion already done. Oh, I just glanced at the comments and somebody said it's homeopathic cream over the counter. Okay, well then, yeah, it's probably fine, but double check that it doesn't have any interactions. What is a good legit vape brand? Because lately we're hearing some conflict about vaping, that it can affect our lungs and toxic if you don't use the right vape product. I'm assuming this has to do with the whole PG versus VG debate and stuff like that. I'm in the group. I should usually try not to put my opinions into it, but I'm in the group where I've seen the studies that say it's mostly safe. People have been using it for quite a while. It's in some things that are not like for vaping, but are actually medical, like I've seen some inhalers with it, some nebulizer type of things with it. So it's been generally recognized as safe, but there has been some gap in terms of studies for inhalation, because the generally recognized as safe designation generally has to do with like consuming it, eating it in your food. Some people can have problems with PG because they're allergic to it. I don't like PG causes like a throat feeling. So if you have a PG vape product and you're using it and you notice your throat has like a throat feel to it, it's probably not like you're not having a reaction to it. That's what it does. People get more PG because they like the throat feeling. It's just the nature of it. So I stick to VG because VG is way like normal for you to inhale for the most part. It's like water vapor basically, compared to, if you want to compare the two. So it's very safe. And the problem though is that if you have an isolate, and most vape products that I see are isolate, so it's not full spectrum, it's not an extract, it's the crystalline dissolved into the vape bases, the PG and VG. The problem there is that if you want a VG only product, you cannot have isolate. Isolate does not dissolve in VG. It just doesn't. Sorry, guys. You're going to have PG, or skip them all together and use a concentrate vape where you vape the I don't want to call it raw because it's not like a raw, but the concentrate, the slabs, and the raw stuff. I just said it again. The crystalline powder stuff. You can use that as is in a special type of vape, not as a liquid. That's one of my recommendations for being safest, to skip the whole PG, skip the whole VG debate. You can also find vape cartridges, like the liquids where it has terpenes as the base, or they use a distillate, which is kind of like a liquidy, like gooey gel type of thing, and that liquidizes when you vape it. So you can get away from PG entirely, but if you want it in a liquid form without terpenes and just the isolate, you're gonna have to have PG. We have it generally both ways on our recommended for good brands. Koi uses PG, but it's very well received. People like it. Johnny Apple CBD is the distillate terpenes. They don't have PG, they don't have VG, but it can be harsh. It is reported to be harsher because you are vaping terpenes as part of the base. I think Temptation has terpenes as their base. They do not use PG, they do not use VG. And if you want the raw stuff, I said it again, I keep saying it, the concentrated stuff where it's like a physical slab or physical crystalline powder and you want to vape it as is, go to Phytodabs or CB Distillery and look at their terpsolates, look at their slabs. Those are the ones you want to use if you want to use it as is. Okay, we're almost at the end of these questions. I've got like 7 more, and then we're going to the other stuff where I can work with you guys on live chat. What's most recommended for neuropathy pain? Sorry, which brand, or what should I look for? This is another very specific question. 1 second. If you have it to where it's like, sorry, 1 second. Because it's my understanding that neuropathy is damage to like your nerves, right? It's a nerve condition, correct? I would look into the Myoderm stuff. You apply it where it hurts. It's transdermal, so it'll go deep. I think, because you asked for a specific brand, that would be, I'd say maybe look there. But if you have long-term, like, you want to prevent the pain, maybe do sublingual. But which brand specifically? I haven't looked into neuropathy and which brand would be best in terms of cannabinoids, so maybe do that research. But I would say definitely at least try Myoderm for nerve pain. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Endometriosis, can CBD oil help? Chronic migraine with visual aura and CBD oil, can it help? Ha, something up my level. Endometriosis, I've heard it help quite a few people. I think there are a few studies about it helping quite a few people. So my answer would be probably. Probably / yes, you know. The reason cannabis and CBD and like all these cannabinoids work so well is because your endocannabinoid system is like a whole body system. It interacts with like your entire body, and it has a lot to do with communication between your body, and so once you start to learn what the endocannabinoid system is and what it does, it starts to make sense of why people tout it as being this like overall like really good, it works for everything kind of thing. I'm always hesitant to call it miracle, like cure-all, because I don't think it necessarily is, but chances are it can help you in some way or another with some type of symptom because of the way of the nature of the system works. But the chronic migraine with visual aura and CBD oil, can it help? I mean, yeah, that's one of those things where I'm saying, yeah, it can help. Will it help? Don't know. I mean, everybody's different. Some people I've spoken to have had no luck with CBD for their migraines, but a lot of them also haven't tried a lot of things. And that's part of the problem, is that there's so many choices out there, and it can be super expensive that people just stop after like a few brands. Understandably, I don't want to keep spending money either if I were in your position. But if you kept looking and kept searching, chances are you'd probably find something that would work. But yeah, chronic migraine with visual aura and CBD oil can help. I would say yes. My recommendation for migraines is to see if you can do some research in the epilepsy community, and find out what oils they're using, because there is believed to be some interaction with migraines and epilepsy. Charlotte's Web is a good starter. I know Haley's Hope is used for epilepsy, so yeah, definitely that kind of stuff. For me, my migraines, I have sort of an aura, but it doesn't tie in with my migraines. It's like 24/7. It's kind of like a visual migraine type of thing. We think it might be an aura, but we haven't been able to tie it to a direct start of pain. But mine is like, I think my supraorbital nerve, which is right here, that extends up, and you have like a temporal nerve, and then your occipital nerve is back here. I think mine are caused by the inflammation of those nerves, and so what I've been using is the Myoderm cream and applying it directly on the nerves, and especially on the back of my neck, and it seems to help quite a bit. So yeah, it just always right after this, here's a question about Myoderm. Can you use heat or ice once you put on the Myoderm lotion? How many times a day can you apply the lotion? Can you put heat or ice once you apply it? Yes, as long as it's safe for you. I mean, there are some conditions where it's like, don't put ice on that, you know, it's bad for it, or don't put heat on that. So as long as it's safe for your actual condition without the Myoderm lotion, chances are it's safe to do it with the lotion. I do it. I put both on. I do ice or heat when I use the lotion. How many times a day can you apply the lotion? It says as needed. They don't have a maximum on there, so I guess they're the best ones to know when it comes to that, because Myoderm was formulated, I'm pretty sure, by a pharmacist, like an actual one, so seems to be pretty safe to use it as is. I've used it like 8 pumps a day. Just it depends. Okay, let's see. My wife has an autoimmune disease that affects joints, skin, digestive system, etc. She started taking some Bluebird Botanicals Complete, but always looking for a better option. Do you know of any others who have autoimmune diseases that are seeing improvement with your products? Nobody like personally, but I've spoken to members that have been using it. Yeah, definitely. You know, always looking for a better option. That's the thing. I would say if you're finding some relief with Bluebird, look at the test. Bluebird is one of those that does have terpene profiles and like results on those. Go through, see what it's high in, maybe see if it's not high in other things in terms of terpenes, and see if there's a oil that's similar but has some more of those terpenes that you're interested in trying that report having an improvement on your condition when you take them. Okay. I would like to know about mixing frankincense with CBD oil. Will the combination help build our immune system? I know it may be a crazy question, but I am curious to know what you think and how much to add. I think there are some oils that have frankincense already added. Am I right in thinking that? Maybe it's black seed oil. 1 second. I'm gonna Google this, or not Google it, go to the website, what I think it is in. If it doesn't, then I don't know. Yeah, it was, okay, it's Bluebird's signature. It has frankincense added to it, in addition to black cumin seed. Did I say that right? I think so. So, they mix it. I'm assuming you can mix it. You maybe ask them why they added it. You know, send them an email and ask if what they think the benefit of adding it is. They can't help you with, like, medical conditions, so they might not be able to give you a super specific answer, but they might be able to say or direct you towards why they added it. How much to add? I don't know. Frankincense, that's an essential oil, correct? I have a frankincense essential oil bottle, and it's my understanding that you have to be very careful when you're ingesting essential oils, and it should only be done typically under supervision, so I'm not gonna advise on how much to put in there. Okay, here's a question. I guess I'll answer this, but I mean, tried to answer it, but it's not really pertaining to CBD. Oh, well, half of it is. Okay, do you have any idea why I'm not getting a response from Jeremy at Temptations after trying my phone, email, or messenger for 1 week? I don't know. I mean, we're not, like, I'm not affiliated with him, so I can't really help you there. I don't know. Has anybody else been getting an answer? I don't know. But I'll answer the second part. Also, is 4 days long enough to know if Myoderm is working? Myoderm should work right away, or like relatively right away. Like you should feel relief within like 30 to 45 minutes if it's working. If you applied enough. Like if I apply one thing, like let's say my wrist hurts. I'm just giving this an example. Actually, I'll do a real example. Let's say my neck hurts. If I apply 1 pump, it generally doesn't work of the regular cream. 2 pumps is like getting there. And then 3 pumps, I feel most pain relief. So if I just apply 1 pump and I wait like 30 minutes, it's not going to do anything. I have to apply multiple ones. But if they're pro, I can apply 2 pumps and it works wonderfully. So it's not necessarily days. It's more of like, are you applying enough to begin with? Can it be used for... Wait, what? This question's kind of confusing me. It just says, can it be used for, and then type of delivery is best and starting dose for both colitis and alcohol abuse? Well, type of delivery, from my understanding of those conditions, I would say probably the sublingual, right? But I don't understand the can it be used for. I guess can it be used for those conditions? Probably. I've seen those mentioned on a group. Yeah, I mean, people use it for that. I don't have personal experience with it. What would you recommend using for sleep apnea and other breathing issues? Oh, man, I don't know. Okay, well, I know some people with like asthma, like other sort of a breathing issue. They actually contradictory to what you would initially think. They do vape the products, you know, like the vaping products, the concentrates or the liquids, because despite the fact that you'd initially think that vaping is not good for you, the CBD is actually working very well to heal their issues in a way. Sleep apnea, I thought I had sleep apnea for a while there. So when I researched it, I thought that sleep apnea is like actually a physical condition where it like blocks, there's like an obstruction in a way with some flap or something, right? And it has to do with the pressure and things like that. I do know weight can have an impact on sleep apnea, and they say to lose weight. So not putting any implications out there, but if you have a problem with your weight that's causing your sleep apnea, there are a lot of people who have reported that CBD has helped them lose weight. I don't know if that's because it's helping with some type of, you know, your endocannabinoid is communication system, so I don't know if it's helping with that or, and just something that was not initially, something that was out of whack initially, but also I do know some people report it helps with their cravings. So THC usually, I know that they were giving THC to cancer patients to give them like cravings so that they would eat, whereas CBD is supposed to be the opposite. I've heard it go either way, but typically the research showed it's supposed to be the opposite. So CBD can make it so where you don't want to eat anymore, or maybe that would help your sleep apnea. I think that's all the questions. Yep, that's all the questions that I could answer. There were 2 I can answer. One was, I need to reorder CBD gummies with the brand name Healthy Leaf. How do I find a provider seller? I don't know. I've never heard of that brand. If the company that produces it doesn't sell it directly, that sounds an awful lot like a subscription scam or MLM to me, and I wouldn't recommend buying them. We do have other gummies. If you go on our site, you know, for recommendations and use our recommendation tool, choose which type you want, full spectrum or isolate, and then it'll bring you to the next page and you can choose if you want gummies or not, and it'll give you some recommendations based on that. So we can help you find a different brand. And the other question was about terpenes, which I've already answered. Okay, that was all the questions from the forum, so I can go to live chat. Wow, that's a lot of questions. Let me see if... Okay. It won't let me... Oh, that's kind of frustrating. It won't let me go all the way back, so I'm going to start with what I can see. It will not let me see the entire chat. That is very frustrating. Okay. What is the best edible? CBD edible. By edibles, generally people are using gummies. Depends on if you want isolate or full spectrum. I'm not a huge fan of edibles right now, just because of the studies about bioavailability and my personal experience of it not working super well, but there are people who love it. I think that if I were to try like some gummies to buy, I would probably stay with like Highland Farms. I think they have really nice gummies. Hope there will be a replay posted. Yes, there will be. Is Hempworks a good brand of CBD oil? I'm not going to say it's bad, but y'all know our stance on those. MLM, Hempworks is MLM. We find that they typically are overpriced, sourced in a way that make them not as high quality as other products, and being MLM, not all of their sellers are like this, but typically they tend to be very aggressive, and the customer service and the answers that they can provide to you for your questions usually are not backed or are misleading or they're misinformed. So yeah, I would not recommend anybody buy Hempworks if they have other options, which chances are you do. You'll save money and you'll be a lot more informed if you buy from a regular brand. Okay. Can you recommend an isolate that doesn't cause GI problems? If you see your question before, like, what I've been answering now, it's because I literally can't see it, so repeat it, and I'll see if it'll show back up, and I can do it. I've had nausea, constipation, stomachache, can't seem to tolerate THC. I was taking Liberty Elixir, started before I joined the group. I've also tried Charlotte Web, Bluebird, had other... Oh, it might actually, yeah, you wonder if it's coconut oil? It might be. There are some people who have problems with coconut oil. You can find, a CBD isolate product without coconut oil, hemp seed oil. The Cat's Naturals Naked, I'm pretty sure that has hemp seed oil. Their regular one has hemp seed oil, so I'm assuming it's the same. Double check. Alternatively, if there's an oil you know you can tolerate, get the raw, said it again, get the concentrate, the crystalline powder, get the oil you know you can tolerate, and just mix it yourself. Super cheap, super easy. If you have a vape, can you add terpenes for additional, I'm assuming additional benefits without issue? Do you mean adding it to a CBD product, like a CBD vape, or just adding it to a regular vape juice? Because you don't vape them straight. Like, don't have a vape and put terpenes in there and vape them straight, typically. It's going to be harsh. But if you have, like, a CBD, like, e-liquid, a lot of people in our group just put, like, 1 or 2 drops in a tank. Just 1 or 2 drops in a tank, and that's it. Thoughts on isolate? Isolate can be good. Typically, most people report they like full spectrum better or isolate with terpenes added. Isolate I find is really good for anxiety. Not so good for neurological conditions like migraines or epilepsy, things like that. Typically, they need the full spectrum stuff. It's not useless. Isolate is not useless. It just has a narrower range of where it will work, whereas full spectrum usually has a wider range of what you can take that'll work. So with full spectrum, maybe you have a range between 8 milligrams and 25 milligrams that it works for you, whereas if you take isolate, that range might be 15 to like 20 milligrams, and that might be the only one where dosage it works at. Which CBD companies have terpenes? Most of them that are full spectrum will have terpenes, unless you mean like to buy the terpenes. If you mean to buy the terpenes, I know CB Distillery sells their terpenes. I have severe headaches and migraines from a ruptured aneurysm. Which terpenes do you recommend? I mean, I don't... Since it's caused by a ruptured aneurysm, I don't know. Do you have inflammation? Do you know if it's caused by inflammation? If so, beta-caryophyllene is one of my favorite terpenes. Definitely try to find something with that's high in that. Thoughts on isolate? Okay, I've already answered that one. Milliliters to milligrams for dosing, how to calculate. Milliliters are volume. Don't get milliliters and milligrams confused. Milliliters are volume. So like, this is 15 milliliters, the liquid in here. Within the liquid is milligrams of CBD, okay? That's the concentration. This milligrams is the concentration of the CBD inside of it. And I think this is the 250 milligram. So there's 250 milligrams of CBD concentrated within the 15 milliliters of liquid in here. Can you do sublingual as needed for anxiety? You could, but it's not going to kick in very fast. Sublingual takes a while to kick in compared to vaping. That's why for immediate acute things, we recommend the vaping and the inhalation methods because it works super fast. Sublingual can take anywhere from like 45 minutes up to an hour to work, or 2 hours to work. So if you need a relief right away, you might be waiting a while. Let's see. So you make your own sublingual isolate from powders? Yes, I kind of hinted to that earlier. You can take the crystalline stuff like this, no problem. This is a slab form, but it comes in a more powdery form. You just dissolve it into a carrier oil. It's easy as pie. So you would take your, let's say you had a leftover bottle. This is 15 milliliters, and I wanted coconut oil isolate, because this was originally full spectrum, but I wanted to reuse the bottle. I would empty this out, wash it out. I would add 15 milliliters of whatever oil I want, whether it's olive oil, grapeseed oil, hemp seed oil, coconut oil, whatever, into the bottle, 15 milliliters of it. Then I would take my raw crystalline powder or slab, it does come in a more solid slab, flat slab form, put it into the bottle, into the oil, close it, shake it, stir it, you know, and sit it in a hot water bath to let it dissolve. That's all there is to it. Best, strongest products for pain? Can't really answer that. It just depends. If you want strong stuff, it really depends on what you mean by strong, you know. If it works really well for somebody but they're taking very little, they consider that strong. But typically stronger is considered higher milligrams, so in the 1,000+ milligram range. Charlotte's Web Advanced 100 milliliter bottle is 5,000 milligrams of CBD. That's pretty strong. Have you tried the vape from Palmetto Harmony? Do you like it? I have not. I've heard it's very comparable to the Four Corners Cannabis one. They're both full spectrum. They're both VG based. Very comparable, apparently. I've heard that the Palmetto Harmony cartridges, because they have like a cartridge you can buy, get kind of gummy fast though, compared to the Four Corners Cannabis, just using it regularly. So I don't know if I would use their cartridges though, if I were to try it. But I do want to try it. I've been trying to put a list together of other things I'm going to try. Can I add terpenes to my vape juice with VG? Yes, you can add it to VG. The only thing you can't use pure VG in is the isolate. What's the best use for fibromyalgia? That's another thing, you know, everybody keeps asking me what's the best for a certain condition. You just have to look at it from what the cause of the condition is and then see what, you know, what cannabinoids and terpenes work best for that. Quicksilver scientific for pain, any information? Quicksilver is supposed to be the the original brand for Prime My Body, isn't it? Like, Prime My Body is rebranded Quicksilver. They're the same prices, typically the same exact dose, the same exact, like, product, if I remember correctly. So everything I say about Prime My Body typically applies to that in terms of price. It's the same product from what I've been able to tell. Okay, for some of these that ask what I recommend for like a specific condition like leukemia and stuff like that, I'm so sorry guys. I don't know if I can really answer those. How does it affect diabetes meds? Again, look at the P450 group of enzymes, see if it interacts. A good indication that your medication interacts with those is if it has a grapefruit warning on it. What's your brand recommendation for sublingual and for vaping? For my conditions, I've been really enjoying CB Distillery and Charlotte's Web and, where is it? Hemp Direct. Their oils, tinctures, like what they call them, either one. Those are what I've been liking for my migraines, for sublingual use. For vaping, I've really been liking the concentrate vaporizer, which is this thing. It's not a tank. It does not hold liquids. You put the raw solid slab or powder in here and it vaporizes it. It's very strong in terms of this. You don't like suck on this all day. You don't fill up a tank and use it all day. It's a one and done type of thing. You get a ton in an inhale of this. That is what I've been really liking for my stuff. But I've also been enjoying the Johnny Apple CBD vape cartridges, and I also enjoyed the Hemptation vape cartridge. The Four Corners Cannabis Vape Liquid is also very nice, but it didn't do a ton for my pain overall. But I also did not have their strongest. They have a stronger one, which might be even better. What is the name of your site website? Our website is cbdoilusers.com. There's also a link to it in the pinned post, which is at the top of the group page. Can you use Myoderm with Charlotte's Web at the same time? Absolutely. You can use everything at the same time if you want to. You know, just start low and slow, because Myoderm is also transdermal, so it's getting into your bloodstream while the Charlotte's Web is as well. So you might need to adjust dosing. What about Koi? Koi, I think I mentioned Koi. Yeah, Koi's fine. Just make sure you're okay with having PG and having it be isolate. I'm not using Koi, even though it interests me and I hear it tastes delicious. I'm not using it because it has flavors added, artificial flavors, and migraines and artificial flavors do not play well together. Is it possible CBD oil could increase your blood sugar levels? I've heard it lowers them. I don't know if it increases them. Anything's almost possible with CBD, so... it might not be the CBD in it, though. It might be something else. You mentioned Myoderm several times for pain. Is this something I can find in the pinned info? Yeah, I think it's in our pinned info. I'm pretty sure it is. We also have an extended reputable brands list in the files section. There are more brands on there that we consider safe to use. But I'm pretty sure Myoderm's in the pinned post. I've already mentioned can use sublingual as needed. You can, just don't expect it to work very fast. Pain and energy sublingual suggestion. For energy, I like the limonene terpene. So if you find an oil with limonene in it, I typically find that works better. Four Corners Cannabis made me a little bit more energized. Surprisingly, CB Distillery made me quite energized, but not in the way that I couldn't sleep. It's more like it made me alert and clear-headed, but I could still sleep when I needed to. I would not get something with significant amounts of linalool if you want to have energy. Unless it does like equal amounts of another terpene that's energizing, then it might be kind of neutral. Some of these I've already answered. What vape do you recommend for migraines? Sort of answered that. I like the concentrate stuff. They come in little jars. They're more solid. They're not liquids. And you vape them. The one thing I will mention is that, so when I load this, I'm using a small amount, but since it's concentrated, it's a solid. that's like 100 plus milligrams, and you're getting that in one inhale. Whereas if you have a tank of liquid, typically you're only getting like 15 milligrams per inhale at most on the higher end of products I've seen. So, and you're vaping on that all day long, so it takes a little bit more. This is very strong, very strong. It's like a one and done kind of thing. You do not typically suck on this all day long. So that's what I'm liking. Do you have to add an oil to the raw powder? Can you just take the powder under your tongue? You can take it under the tongue. Just don't expect it to be super pleasant. It has some issues dissolving, and I've heard it's a little abrasive under your tongue. I would add it to the oil if I were you. What's your favorite vape juice? I haven't used a ton of vape juices because it's harder to find VG only vape juices and vape juices without flavoring. So my favorite juice, even though I don't use it often, is the Four Corners Cannabis. Will this video be available to watch later? Yes. If it contains no THC, will it show up on a drug screen? Typically no. Typically drug tests do not test for CBD, they test for THC. So if it doesn't have THC, that makes sense that it wouldn't test positive. But you really need to make sure it doesn't have THC, because some brands some of the MLM brands say it contains no THC, and then you look at their lab tests and it has THC. But they consider it so little that they're allowed to call it no THC, 0% THC, which is a lie. It has some in it. Let me see. Make sure it doesn't have CBN and that your test is not testing for CBN. CBN is the degraded THC, so THC turns into CBN over time, and some tests do test for CBN instead of THC. Sometimes they test for both, but typically no. Most of them will not. I have not seen it yet. Can we watch later? Yes. Very new to CBD world. Do most people just vape or just sublingual, or is it usually a combo? I mean, there are some people who are really against vaping. They don't think it's healthy. They don't want to do it, or they just don't need to. What it usually is kind of, I think most people use sublingual. I think most people just use sublingual. But there's a runner-up of people who use the combination, and I think the people who just vape is on the lower end. I'm concerned about failing a drug test while taking CBD. Any thoughts? Oh, like I said, if it has THC, you should be concerned. If it doesn't have THC, I really wouldn't worry about it, but you need to make sure. Look at lab tests. Do you know if Plus CBD by CV Sciences contains THC? I'm pretty positive it does. We've seen a lot of people test positive on it, and it's considered full spectrum, which leads me to believe it has THC. Lazarus Naturals, a good brand. I'm hoping it would help with insomnia. Yeah, I think Lazarus Naturals is the one I mentioned earlier that's supposed to be pretty good for sleep. I think it's Lazarus and also New Leaf are the two that keep getting recommended for people with sleep problems. Where can I get the one and done vape? Mine? There's a lot of different brands that are similar, but this is my favorite. I think it's like top tier, without being too expensive. This, I mentioned this in my vape video, but over a quick overview, this is a battery, and it's separate from this part. So you can buy these separately or together. This is a battery. This is what regularly is on any kind of vape. You know, it powers the vape. And you could put a regular liquid tank on here if you wanted. So what you're actually interested in is this part. And this is called a concentrate atomizer. This brand, this particular one is called the Sayonara by Humboldt Vape Technology. You can buy just this, or you can buy the kit together. I bought the kit. This is an iStick Pico E-Leaf 75 watt battery. So yeah, those are the names of them. You can buy the kit on Humboldt Vape Technology if you really want it. There are all other less fancy setups that do the similar things. Whether or not it's better or as good just depends, because some of them you can't adjust temperature. This one I can adjust temperature. I can do a whole lot of things with this. I can use different types of coils, which are what melts and turns it into vapor, and have different, some of them are stronger than others and better at it than others for certain concentrates. So it's more involved, but it's easy to use. I don't want anybody to think it's hard to use, because this was my very first one and it was super easy to use. But you can Evolve has some good ones. That would be my runner-up if you want something cheaper, more pin style, like not this big thing, even though this is still pretty small, you know. Let me see. So yeah, this portion I'll go over again is called the Sayonara by Humboldt Vape Tech. They make this. You can buy it separately from the battery. This is called an iStick Pico eLeaf 75 watt. You can buy them as a kit if you want to get it all in one and ready to go. It even comes with, because this, I call this the battery, but there's actually a removable literal battery in here. This is just, we call this a regular battery to begin with. Have you used or heard of farm extracts? Sorry, have not. How old are you? Guess. We'll see if you get it right. When you make your own sublingual, how much crystals do you need? Typically, they are sold in 0.5 gram or 1 gram amounts. That converts into milligrams. 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. 0.5 grams is 500 milligrams. So they come in those amounts typically, but you can use as much as you want or as little as you want. If let's say if you buy 1,000 milligrams, like 1 gram, and you want to use less, you need a scale that converts to milligrams, and you can like measure out how much you want. But typically you would use that amount that you decide on into your milliliters of liquid, whether it's like 15 or 30 milliliters. Y'all are actually guessing my age. Nice. You're wrong so far. Can I combine linalool with limonene in my sublingual? CBD sublingual? Yeah, you can combine pretty much all of them, like any of the combinations. It just, some of them might be energizing, whereas one might be sedating, so they might cancel each other out in terms of that type of stuff. What is good for chronic pain and I can't sleep with CBD? When you say you can't sleep, are you saying it gives you insomnia? Or what? Or is it just not helping? Have you tried Green Mountain CBD or Hemptation? I have tried Hemptation. I've tried their whole plant olive oil. I'm an adult, guys. I'm not a teen. I know I look young. I haven't tried Green Mountain, but I've heard their capsules are actually really good if you open the capsule and use the oil inside of it and use it sublingually. I've heard that's really good. That a lot of people like that. Most people I've actually seen do that. They don't actually use it as a capsule, but it seems to be pretty cost effective when they do that. Hemptation, I've used their oils, the whole plant one, the olive oil one, and I've also used their cartridges. Greenco Science Vape Pens, have you heard any negative? Haven't heard any negative because I haven't heard of them, sorry. Have I heard of Erie? Is that Irie or Erie? Erie, right? Irie starts with an I, right? Shoot. I can't remember. I'm having flashbacks to The Office. When they're, if anybody's seen The Office, when they're at Jan's thing for her suit, and he's trying to pronounce Irie or Erie. Sorry. But no, I have not heard of that brand. Any other questions? Because I've actually gone through these. I went as high as it would let me see and answered all the ones that I could below it. So if I didn't answer your question, it's because I literally cannot see it. once the questions get so old on the chat, it won't let me see it anymore on this screen. Of course, it'll let me see it when I like end the stream and I can go through the entire history, but live, it won't show me. So if I didn't answer it, ask it now. No one got my age right. I'm not going to tell you my age, okay? You can make an educated guess and just stay with it. What is your best recommendation for chronic rheumatoid arthritis? Again, specific medical condition, but, you know, I would actually, you know, given what the condition is, I would give the Myoderm, because it kind of has because I know what rheumatoid arthritis is, but I would give the Myoderm a try. I'm just gonna put it there because I don't want to give anything, but yeah. If you have anything like that, try Myoderm. When will the giveaway occur? It's gonna be today. Brian draws the names and like does the randomized selection, so he's gonna do that. How would you start to give a large anxious dog CBD oil? You mean method? Because a lot of people put it in their food. Some people inject it like directly into their mouth with like an oral syringe. Some people bake them into treats. But look up dosing, because I don't have it off the top of my head. I think some people have posted dosing charts in the CBD for Pets group that we also run. So I would look up dosing, but I would try those methods. Start slow, whatever you do. Do you think vaping is the best delivery method? If you want relief immediately, yes. But if you want preventative relief, no. Just curious what your background is and how you became so knowledgeable. Well, I have chronic migraines, right? I've had them ever since I was really young, for over 10 years now. And so, y'all are going to use that to guess my age again, aren't you? So I've been dealing with it for quite a while. I also have some heart issues and some other things. I have mild anxiety, nothing that I would have turned to CBD, but I turned to CBD mainly for my migraines. They got so bad, I dropped out of college, I couldn't work, I was like doing nothing with my life basically. And so I was kind of desperate, and I didn't know that CBD from hemp was legal. You know, I didn't know that any of this stuff was legal at the time. So when I figured it out that it was, I ordered Charlotte's Web and I tried it, and it was like the best thing I had tried out of anything I have tried. And I haven't tried a lot of stuff for my migraines, and here's why. In terms of pharmaceuticals, because of my heart condition. So unfortunately, a lot of migraine medications like the antidepressants and stuff like that are contradicted, and I can't take them, so I can't even try them. So I was kind of like at this standstill where I couldn't try a lot of the regular migraine meds because I couldn't do them because of my heart. So maybe they would have worked for my migraines, but they were bad for my heart. So I tried CBD and I was like, oh my gosh, this works so well. So I just like, whenever I find something like that, I like indulged in all the knowledge I could of it. I'm not like a super expert. I'm still learning things every day, but I do know quite a bit. And so that's what led me to where I am now. Is it just personally worked so well. So it made me really passionate about it, and I wanted to help everybody else because it was amazing. Does CBD kill cancer? Do you have to have THC? Look at research studies on that. I think there are some on Project CBD for cancer specifically, but everybody says it's the THC, but I think there's stuff we don't know. And whether or not it's a cure for cancer, I'm super hesitant to say that. I hate saying things are cures, so I'm not going to say, but just look at the studies on Project CBD and see if any of those answer your question. Is it safe to warm up CBD in warm water? Like the oil? Oh, wow, I think my lip is breathing. It's really dry. Like, if you take, like, the oil and you put it in a water bath to warm it up, technically, if it's warm, that should be okay. Like, if the oil is thick and you need to, like, make it a little bit more fluid, that should be fine. But do not use hot water. You will damage and degrade some of the cannabinoids in there and terpenes. For rheumatoid arthritis, oh yes, let me spell it. Myaderm is this stuff. It's backwards. 1 second. Myaderm, M-Y-A-D-E-R-M Pro. This is one I would recommend just because it works so well and it's more cost effective. But if you don't want to spend it's like what, $90 or something for it, then they do have the lower concentration one. You just might need to use more pumps to get the same amount, but it'll give you a good idea. They also do have sample packs, so you don't have to buy a giant, like, real full thing yet. What dose Charlotte Web do you start on for migraines? When I first started, I actually used the everyday. I did not use the plus or the advanced. They have 3 categories. I used the everyday, and I was using, I would say, around 5 to 10 milligrams a day, morning and evening. Like, I would split that into morning and evening. It did not work on the initial migraines, but it worked on my sleep really well, to where some of my migraines that were caused by sleep were cut out and I no longer had them, and my mood was super elevated. Like, I was just feeling better despite even having migraines. And over the course of a month, I used up that bottle and increased up to 50 milligrams. I did not start that right away. I increased up to the 50 milligrams. Once I hit 50 milligrams, which was just after a month had gone by, I started getting weeks off of migraines. And I didn't say this before, but I had chronic migraines. I had daily migraines. I do not anymore, thanks to CBD and some other things I've been doing. Because, you know, CBD is a tool in my toolbox. It's not my only method of taking care of my migraines. I don't take any other pharmaceuticals for them, but, you know, I do have, like, I watch my diet and stuff like that to take care of them too, but CBD has been the most significant impact. What happens, or how do you feel if you take too much CBD at once? Generally you don't really feel anything in terms of, like, people are like, well, if it has THC, maybe you'll get high. If it's a hemp product, I'm sorry, it's pretty much impossible. There's just not enough. There is a kind of a threshold to what it takes to get high, and it will not exist in hemp products. You might have, I mean, like, if you drank a whole bottle, let me rephrase that. If you drank this whole bottle of Charlotte's Web, the 100 milliliters, there's going to be 200 milligrams of THC in here. You're going to probably feel crappy, definitely, and something. But if you're just taking, like, if you took, like, a drop or too much, you're not going to feel anything. What will happen, possibly, is negative, like, you might go backwards in terms of what you're wanting. So you might no longer feel benefits. It might do the opposite of what you want. So if you take too much CBD and it's been helping with your sleep, maybe suddenly you'll have insomnia. Maybe you'll get a headache. It's nothing serious. You can't overdose. But you're also going to be wasting money if you take too much. Which oil would you recommend for anxiety? Okay, I already answered that. Top favorites for CBD. I think I already answered that. I have migraines, so the stuff I use has been for my migraines. It's been the Charlotte's Web, CB Distillery, the Myaderm, Hemp Direct, and the concentrates from Phytodabs and CB Distillery. Oh, and Four Corners Cannabis. I love their stuff, I just can't afford it. Is that similar to BioFreeze? The Myaderm stuff? I mean, BioFreeze doesn't have CBD. The main thing in this is the CBD. The CBD is doing the vast majority of the work. BioFreeze is not transdermal, right? I don't think it is. This is transdermal, so there's differences there. BioFreeze has menthol, right? that hence the freeze. It's kind of like an icy hot thing. This does have menthol, but significantly less. So it has a very, very light cooling feeling. So they're quite different, but you do apply them similarly. Thoughts on kratom? We don't really allow that in our group, sorry. What other kind of stuff for migraines? Oh yeah, I mentioned half of it. Yeah, my diet. There are certain triggers. I can't have aspartame. I can't have diet drinks. Certain artificial sweeteners in addition to the aspartame. Certain artificial flavors, colorings. Those are just ones that I've noticed. Right now I've actually cut out all of my painkillers that I used to take. So my triptans, for people who don't know, triptans are what you take at the start of a migraine to abort the migraine. I've stopped taking them, and I've actually noticed I've been doing really well. I think I turned chronic when I started taking them. It kind of transferred me from episodic to chronic when I started taking painkillers. So yeah, I've just revamped my entire diet and stuff like that along with the CBD, and it's been a wonderful combination for me. And I was not someone who I thought was getting rebounds, like rebound headaches from my stuff, because it didn't seem to correlate with what everybody said was rebounds. I have also taken supplements, magnesium, I love magnesium, B2, vitamin B2, CoQ10. There are some others. I think Butterburn, Feverfew. Yeah, I don't take those anymore though. I do the magnesium still though, because magnesium is really good for your heart, and I have a heart arrhythmia. How many ingredients is in your oil? Which one? Usually it's just hemp extract, so the CBD is a part of the hemp extract, and the carrier oil. Usually most of my stuff is coconut oil, but the hemp direct is hemp seed oil. Can you speak about CBD and rhythm meds? Well, I'll speak about my condition. I have PSVT, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. The way they explained it to me is basically I have like extra pathways in my heart that get triggered. Non-life-threatening for the most part. Feels like dying when it happens. But basically I get triggered events where for me it's bending over. I'll bend over and all of a sudden my heart will go from, I keep saying idling, it's not really. It'll go from resting, like 70 to 80 BPM, to 270 beats per minute. Yeah, I have one of the highest I've seen. It's pretty scary. It does it instantly. It does not ramp up. It goes from 70 to 70 like an instant. There are some methods they had me do where it's like rubbing my neck like an artery to cause some kind of response that stops the arrhythmia. It worked, but I was getting them, and I was getting daily PVCs, like palpitations, where I would have extra beats or double beats, and then it would pause, and it feels like my heart stops, and then it would start again. You know, it would stop, and hit like that feeling, and then it starts beating again. Very scary. But yeah, that's what PSVT is for me, is where I get the episodes where it instantly starts. I have to like lay down, I have to do like these maneuvers to get it to stop. If it doesn't stop, I have to go to the hospital and have adenosine, which is an injection, typically like an IV injection that stops and starts your heart in a way. Not wanting to do that, haven't had it done yet, not planning on it in the future. But when the episode stops, it stops. It doesn't ramp down, it's 270 back down to resting. It's the craziest feeling. So, leading into that, if you understand what that is, once I started the CBD, well, I'll say this, I had a study done last December, actually like around this time, an electrophysiology study. It's where they take catheters and like probes and stuff through your main vein, like arteries from your groin into your heart, while you're sedated or asleep. And they map your heart, and then they map the electrical pathways and try to figure out what's causing it, and so they can burn off or ablate certain pathways so you don't have the triggering. Unfortunately for me, my heart's a butt, and decided not to trigger while I was under, and they couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So they put me on diltiazem, which is a calcium channel blocker, which works for some arrhythmias, despite mostly being for blood pressure. And it helped. I was still getting daily PVCs. when I would get the arrhythmia, like my PSVT episode, it would trigger and then almost immediately stop within like a minute. So better, but I was still getting them. And the thing that was bothering me the most was the daily PVCs, because it feels like your heart darn stops. It's scary. Once I started the CBD, it stopped completely. Like, I haven't had a PVC in like a month. And even then it was just once, and I had too much caffeine, and it's not reoccurring. I've had like one PSVT episode in the past like 3 months, and it started and stopped within 1 second. I like felt the initial and then it was gone. Fantastic. So that's what my experience has been. Diltiazem is one of the medications for me that is interacting with grapefruit, that has that grapefruit warning, so it does interact with the P450 group of enzymes. So what I do is I just take them separately. I take them 2 hours apart. I have taken them together. I've had no issues. Sometimes I wonder, because the P450 group with the CBD blocking, sometimes I wonder if it's making the medication stay in my system longer at higher concentrations towards working better. So, I don't know. But I have taken a higher dose of diltiazem and it did not help. It did not. So maybe no. But that is something I've just, one of those thoughts I got, which was like, maybe. But no issues on my side, but I can't guarantee it would be the same for you. There are studies on CBD being an anti-arrhythmic, you know, having anti-arrhythmic properties. Not a ton. It's in the initial phases of people studying it, but it is showing some promise. And my experience is that it's helped significantly. Let me see. Does CBD help with eye issues? I guess it would depend on what type of eye issues. Have you tried CBD Brothers? I have not. They're primarily a European brand, correct? I've heard they're good. Their labeling is very confusing to me. And the percentages and how they list everything. You take 0.25 twice a day and no change so far. How long does it take? 0.25 milligrams or 0.25 milliliters or what? If you can specify, then maybe we can get some answers for you. Scott, I feel like your heart's about to jump out of your chest. Heck yeah. Exactly, it's like when it gets that fast, it feels like your heart isn't even beating individual beats. It's like one giant vibration. I didn't know your heart could beat that fast until I saw I had an event monitor for like a month I wore, and they were like, yeah, your heart's pretty dang fast. Good news is apparently my heart's really healthy other than that, because it can handle it. Herxing and CBD thoughts. I normally don't believe in detoxes. I don't. Sorry. Your liver and your kidneys do all of it for you, naturally. But there are studies that show that herxing is a real thing. And it's not necessarily a detoxing in the sense of like people who like take detoxes like to drink them. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to offend anybody, but there are some studies showing that herxing is a real thing, and it has to do with how, because your body does hold on to apparently some forms of toxins, and there are byproducts of certain processes in your body that release what we consider toxins, which we need to get rid of, and naturally we usually do. But if you have some kind of condition that's preventing it from getting rid of the rest of those, then that can be a problem. And CBD apparently can help with, again, endocannabinoid system being partially a communication system, working with those processes can help start getting them to get rid of, where your body can get rid of them naturally. So initially it might make things worse when it's like everything's suddenly like working and it's like, we have so much we need to get rid of, or something like that. Oh, Brian, well, that's the winners. Awesome. Okay. We're using Bluebird Botanical Sample Pack. Those don't have much CBD, correct? If I remember correctly, if you have the regular one, it's like 83 milligrams per tiny bottle, and the 6 times is 6 times that much. So, not a ton. Since I was saying I take 50 milligrams per day, that would be like less than 2 days for me per bottle. But you will be able to tell initially if you're taking the 5 milligrams a day and building up. That's a good choice to use. Excuse me. Oh, blood pressure is an interesting mention. Nobody asked the question, but yeah, my blood pressure's been a little bit lower too. I don't have high blood pressure, but when I have migraines, my blood pressure goes up. And while I was having these heart problems, I was having migraines all the time, of course, you know. And so my blood pressure was higher because I was in pain all the time. So I think it's just overall, I've been doing significantly better. It's like everything's coming together and working. Do you have to take the oil on a daily basis or only when you need it? It's really up to you, but typically if you have a chronic condition where you have it all the time, like migraines, I have them all the time, I need to take it daily. And when something does slip through and I do get a migraine, I will take it extra, like the vaping, to get rid of it. If you have something where it's like you just work out, maybe you're somebody who doesn't really have health problems and you exercise and you work out and you notice that sometimes your lower back might hurt, or you have some muscle issues, or it exacerbates a problem that you did have, like a knee problem. You can use it as needed then. Maybe you just get anxiety with public speaking. You can use it as needed then, you know, before you go on stage, that kind of thing. Any thoughts on the SOL Soul brand? I don't know that brand. Sorry. Actually, maybe I do. Is it the one with the sun? Is there a recommended amount of any CBD to start with? Like I said, I recommend starting low and slow, 5 to 10 milligrams per day, build up over the course of a few months. So 5 to 10 milligrams a day, let a week go by, see how you feel, no change, increase it by 5 to 10 milligrams, another week go by, maybe 3 to 5 days if you're feeling anxious about getting on with it, slowly increase. You will know when you hit a dose that works for you. And if you never hit it, try a different brand because it's just not working at all. I noticed it around 50 milligrams after I took it for a month. Need help with neuropathy in legs? Have you checked out Myoderm? Because that's going to be my recommendation to everybody with nerve problems. Myoderm or the Mary's Nutritionals gel pens. And curious if anybody's tried the Charlotte's Web new creams and balms. Those ones looking really interesting to me too. Oh, and you might also enjoy Mary's Nutritionals, their muscle freezes. They have sprays and like these creams that are supposed to be really nice for muscle pains and like nerves. But I like the gel pens because they're sort of transdermal, and I really like Myoderm because it is transdermal and it's more cost effective. How do you know how much is a milligram? I mean, it should be labeled. A milligram is a milligram. Like, does this one say? Yeah, on this one it says, one second. Will it focus? Oh, come on. We found it. Okay. This says how much. So it has 1,400 milligrams of CBD in the entire bottle. Each pump distance is 14 milligrams. It should be labeled. If it's not, it might not even have CBD in it. Let's see. Droppers don't usually say. They should. Where is it? All of mine have said, I think. My Charlotte's Web lists hemp extract, but hemp extract, CBD is a constituent of hemp extract. And we know they don't label theirs outright because of the FDA and labeling rules and stuff like that. However, if you email them, they will tell you exactly how much it has. And this is 50 milligrams per 0.6 milliliters for the advanced, but we know that 1 milliliter of this is actually 50 milligrams of CBD, not just hemp extract. For this one, that's the same brand. Hold on. For this one, I have Hemp Direct. It lists 33 milligrams of CBD. It outright lists it per milliliters. CB Distillery lists 1,000 milligrams per bottle, 66.67 milligrams per milliliter. It should label it. How do you know how many drops to take to get 5 milligram or 10 milligram? I don't recommend actually doing it by drops, like 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. They're very inaccurate because droppers and drop sizes are not always the same. So what I actually recommend doing is using an oral syringe with a milliliter syringe and dosing it that way. If you must do it per drops, however, which most people do, I get it, it's convenient. Go on our website, cbdoilusers.com, and go onto the calculator and fill out all the information. It'll ask you the size of the bottle in milliliters, so the volume of the bottle, whether it's 15 milliliters, 30 milliliters, maybe it's 100 milliliters if it's Charlotte's Web. It will ask you the exact amount of milligrams total in the bottle. Maybe it's 200 milligrams total in the bottle. Maybe it's 300, 500, 750, 1,000. Maybe it's more, maybe in the 2,000 to 5,000 range. And then it'll ask you how much you want to take. So you could put in 5 milligrams. I want to take 5 milligrams. It'll do the conversion for you. Oh, it'll also ask you how many drops are in your dropper. This is the most important part almost. People usually say that 20 drops equals a milliliter, but that is a dang lie most of the time. That applies usually to water in a specific size dropper. Droppers come in all sizes, like the glass dropper that's in here. They come in all sizes, and the type of viscosity of the liquid, which is an oil in here, can determine the size of the drop. So you're not necessarily going to get 20 drops out of this dropper. I get like 40 out of this one. Out of this one, I get like 35. I think the CB Distillery one, I got 50 out of one time. So here's what I recommend doing. Take your dropper, fill it up completely, then count how many drops it takes to empty it. Do it 2 or 3 times, and then average out how many drops. Then put that into the calculator for how many drops is in a milliliter in your brand. It'll convert it and tell you how many milligrams is per 1 drop. At least approximately. Make sure you're shaking your bottles before you dose them. I might be able to show you actually. Let me see if I can get it set up. 1 second. Because a lot of people are still confused about using the calculator. Makes sense, it's fine. Okay. 1 second. We're gonna try something. The screen might change because I'm adjusting something, so 1 moment. Oh, am I still showing? Good. Okay, let's get this set up and I'll explain how we can do this. Oh, 1 second. I'm almost done, I promise. Ooh. Haha. Yep, okay. Okay. I think we've got this. You get to see all my stuff that's open. Anyways, here's our page, right? What we do for the dosing calculator, I'll use this one as an example, right? So it says what size of CBD oil bottle in milliliters. This one says it is 1 fluid ounce, which is 30 milliliters. So I would enter 30. How many total milligrams of CBD are in the bottle? This says it is 33 milligrams per 1 milliliter, also known as 1,000 milligrams per 30 milliliters, roughly. So we're going to do 1,000 milligrams. What is my desired dose? 5 milligrams a day. You can see the site thing up here. Okay. Standard dropper produces 20 milliliters usually, but I know I did this one and it was in the 35 range for how many drops. So I need to change this. I need to say I did the dropper thing. I counted how many drops was in a full dropper. I did it a few times. It's averaging around 35. It converts everything for you. It says that it is 0.15 milliliters. So if you had an oral syringe that was 1 whole milliliter, you would be able to draw out only 0.15 milliliters, and that would be how much this is. It would be 5.25, or 0.95. Wait, I can't see. There's something in my way. Yeah, okay. 0.15 milliliters would be 5 milligrams. It tells me how many drops are in the entire bottle. It tells me how many milligrams of CBD are in each drop. And it tells me how many drops I need to take to get that 5 milligrams that I input up here. So, I hope that helped a little bit. Do you put the oil under your tongue or just swallow it or mix it with something? Put it under your tongue, let it sit for 90 seconds, then you can swallow. Do longer than 90 seconds if you can. I like to do the longer. I think the longer the better chance that all of it's absorbed, but 90 seconds seems to be the standard. You could mix it with something and swallow it, but note that that will be oral instead of sublingual, so the bioavailability, meaning how much you actually get into your body, will be greatly reduced. The calculator's on our site. The actual web link is www.cbdoilusers.com/CBD hyphen, that's a hyphen, right? Oil hyphen drops hyphen dosage hyphen calculator /. It's if you go to our actual website, at the very top right here, like if you go to the main page, you can find the link in our website or our pin post. At the very top right here, CBD dosage calculator, and that's what you need. So how many milligram is in 1 milliliter? Well, like I said, it depends on your brand. Mine, this one is 33 milligrams per 1 milliliter. This one is the everyday regular Charlotte's Web. This was 6 to 7 milligrams per 1 milliliter. This one is the advanced Charlotte's Web. It was 50 milligrams per 1 milliliter. Fine. This was the CB Distillery 1000 milligram. It is 66.67 milligrams per 1 milliliter. So it varies all across the board. Alright, is there any other questions? Because I'm about to wrap this up because we're going on 2 hours and almost 30 minutes. But I think I've answered everybody's question. We also do have a price calculator, don't we? Yeah, we have a price calculator too, so you can use that to compare all the prices. It's right next to the dosage calculator link at the top of the website. Well, I like helping you guys. I don't mind. I'm not tired. I'm hungry. I haven't got to have lunch yet. No problem, you guys. If you have any additional questions, like I said, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to do that right now. The forum that was linked on the event page is now in the description. The Google form is now open for responses. Again, you can submit a question there. It'll be answered in another question and answering thing. I think I'm going to start doing this format regularly. I feel like this is better because whenever I would do a specific topic like over vaping or over the methods of CBD, people would still keep asking questions that's not really related, and it made it hard to keep things structured. So we're going to focus on doing YouTube videos that are structured, you know, on a topic, and have an article on the website to go with it, in addition to the live streams, and the live streams will be more of a question and answering, ask me anything type of thing. I think that will be a much better method of doing things. But yeah, so you can fill out questions on the form now. I just opened it up for responses. If there was something where you really need something right now answered, you can always message me. I'm always available to be messaged. I will try to help you in any way I can. So yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna head out now, and I'll see you next time.